Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Catholic Talk Show. Today, we're going to be looking at patron saints.
That's right. You probably think of your patron saint as just some name you picked at your confirmation, but there's a lot more to it. There's saints who stalk you and seek you out, and how to find a saint that's going to really help you on your journey towards heaven.
So if you want to find out how to find the right saint for you, stay tuned.
All right, great topic today for you guys. Definitely exploring a lot of things that I, regrettably have not explored. So this would be good for me to listen to.
Yeah, I think one of the great things is in our faith is our relationship with the saints as the family of heaven, right? And it's one of the things that I think a lot of Protestants misunderstand is our devotion to the saints, how we can model our lives after them, and what our relationship with them is. So we'll talk about things like, well, what does the Catechism say about patron saints, and who are some saints, and what are some charisms you can model? But before we do that, if you're watching this, make sure you click the like and subscribe button, or you can go to CatholicTalkShow.com and find all the different ways you can follow us on social media and all the different platforms we're on. So, Father Michael, patron saints, I mean, I'm sure you help a lot of people with this kind of thing, in OCIA, which I'm still getting used to saying, or even during baptisms when, you want a child to have a proper Christian name. But, what's the whole thing about patron saints? What's that all about?
It's the same thing I think that happens in a family when there's a family name that's given. That's how we're in honor of this family member. I've got a nephew named Maximilian Michael, and I could claim that he's named after me, but both of his grandfathers are also named Michael as well. But it's this recognition of it's a connection to something larger than yourself. So while I think there are some movements these days to try to kind of, be as original as possible with names. There's something very cool about saying, like, I have a name and it points back to a history and a heritage and a family. And the same thing's true within the family of God, the church, that we have these names that connect us to an event, to a person who followed the Lord, who lived a life of holiness, and maybe lived it in unique and challenging circumstances. And us taking on their name, in a sense, it's us having a connection to that same grace that was at work then and is at work now as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's part of being part of a family. I think any family kind of understands that at sort of an instinctual level.
So I'm going to go to the Catechism here real quick, just to give some context about just our relationship with the saints, and not even so much in particular patron saints. So this is Catechism number 956. And it's about how the saints intercede for us. Being more closely united to Christ, those who dwell in heaven do not cease to intercede with the Father for us. So one of the big problems people have is you're praying to the saints. It's no different than me asking you to pray for me or you to pray for me. If you go down and like, yeah, I haven't been feeling great, if you could throw a couple prayers my way or whatever. But these people who have lived obvious models of sanctity and holiness, and through the proclamation of the church, we have the unknowing that they're in heaven. Why would we not want to unite our prayers and ask for them? Like, hey, you're like, I'm all the way down here in Florida. You're right there by the throne of God. You want to maybe kind of remember me to him? I mean, it's biblical too. I mean, you could look at the great bowls of the incense in the book of Revelation from the saints going up to the throne. I mean, it's biblical to be able to ask for their intercession. We're not praying for them. They don't have any powers of their own. Their powers are prayer, which they're able to then intercede to the Trinity for us,
And I think it's part of the struggle that we have is a lot of times we've learned the faith, especially in the United States and in America, that we have this very kind of privatized understanding of our faith. It's me and God.
Mm-hmm.
But the church really is this reality that God calls us into a family. And obviously our own personal relationship with the Lord is so important and so key as a part of that, but it's not never divorced from the larger family. And so sometimes maybe people who've learned their Christianity as a flavor of it's just me and God, I don't need other people, the saints become even harder to understand. But when I recognize the saints are those who are with God, they're in glory, and they intercede for us, like you see in the book of Revelation, that we have conversations with them as we see Jesus in the Transfiguration, Moses and Elijah there with him, that these moments are recognizing that we're all moving in the same direction. And some people say, well, the saints are dead. You can't talk to the dead. It's like, well, no, the saints, if they're in heaven, they're more alive than we are.
Exactly.
And so having a conversation with them, just like I ask holy people in my life, hey, I'm going through this. This is coming up. If you could pray for me, I'm not going around God or avoiding talking to God. Of course I'm talking to God, but I'm including them as my members of the family to intercede with me, which makes it even more powerful and efficacious.
Yeah, I'd say the even more insidious kind of claim is that it's necromancy.
Right.
But necromancy is trying to manipulate spirits to get secret, esoteric, or hidden knowledge. That is not at all what we're doing. We're not saying, hey, St. John Bosco, can you tell me, if my boat's going to crash, or can you tell me what the lottery numbers? We're not trying to access things that are behind the veil and trying to use necromancy to pull those things out. What we're doing is we're saying, look, I need help. Can you go? Or, hey, I'm thankful. Can you tell? Right? It's really, like you said, it's embracing that this is a family, ut unum sit, that they may all be one. That's what Christ in his great prayer asked for. So for us to say it's just me and God is okay, but it's missing a lot of what Christ intended for the church to be and what he intended for us to be in the body of Christ.
Yeah. And I don't think I or a lot of people understand just how thin this veil is, right? Like, I mean, it's at its thinnest, I think, during Mass, during the Holy, Holy, Holy. It's like, this is where heaven and earth are now like together, like, and they're one with each other. And that's everybody that's there.
Mm-hmm.
We know saints are there, right? I mean, there's a lot of diligence that goes into how the church proclaims them publicly. But I don't think a lot of people understand just how thin that veil is and how we can communicate, not like, esoteric things, but just communicate intentions or realities within us where people are present. And I've had saints like seek me out, right?
Yeah.
It's like, Conchita Cabrera, like I have this like long 10-year relationship with her where now, recently I'm like, this is why you brought me aside. Like you literally.
I think that's worth telling, Ryan. Ryan, I think that's worth telling about Conchita Cabrera, because like one of the first things we ever did together, trips, I think the first trip you and I ever took together was to Mexico. We were going to see Our Lady of Guadalupe, and then we went to the tomb of Conchita Cabrera, and I'd never heard about her, and you let me know about her. She was a mother, a mystic, who was widowed, and then she was left with all of these children. And you're like, I don't know why I like this woman. I just went there and all of a sudden I felt my heart open up. But then you find yourself here completely. There's no way that you could have known this 10 years ago, but now you're in the same situation as a widower with 7 children. And the way
in a book, and she wrote more than St. Thomas Aquinas.
I know.
Like, I mean, I'm looking at all this stuff.
Look, I got goosebumps.
See, yeah, no, it's for real. That's legit.
That's her. I'm telling you. So, like, all right. So
I saw no connection until that last point. You just said she's a widow, raising all the kids, and I was like, wait a second. Like, I kind of saw where this is going. Good Lord, thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. Conchita Cabrera. Yeah. She
blessed Conchita Cabrera.
So, as all stories go with me, it starts out funny. So I didn't go. You were like the second trip. So the first trip I go there to meet her, I brought vocational stuff to that trip. And we went to Our Lady of Guadalupe. I got this calling to consecrate Fusati to her. Then I went there with some minor stuff, right? But we're at a retreat center, and I'm buying gifts for all my kids because I'm like, I didn't buy them anything. So I'm like going to this place. Much like me singing like in a bar, everybody left, right? So I'm like sitting there buying stuff, and everybody miraculously disappears. And some guy runs in, he's like, dude, you got to come see this. So I'm like, I gotta get some. He's like, come here. So I walk in there. She's got a massive tomb. It's like, I don't know. It's enough for 20 guys to get around. Everybody's got their arms on her tomb, and they're all praying a rosary. And I'm like, whoa. So I go there. I sit my arms on her tomb, and I just start praying, like for the intentions that I brought to her. And she like melted my heart. It was just like, and everybody else's hearts, right? So that's how I met her. Then I brought people back over the times that I've gone to Mexico personally with pilgrimages, all this stuff. And then like, I think the 4th or 5th time we finally got to go up to that church, and it's like, the church like shoots up, like it's like shoot. And I'm like looking up, and I'm like envisioning all this stuff that like God's sharing with me. And I'm like, wow, like what am I supposed to do? This is a really cool inspiration. And she like spoke to me and said, you're a mystic. Like this is not a special thing. It's literally how God communicates with you. And it's for you and him to communicate, and other people have had it, and it's fine. So I kind of normalized a lot of things that happened to me over my spiritual life, where I was like dismissive of it because it's like, what am I supposed to say? Like I'm getting like honed in on the Eucharist at adoration, and there's like clouds going by. Like I'm not going to say that to somebody, right? So
we just said it to the millions of people watching the Catholic Talk Show.
Billions.
But
billions.
Okay, but like I learned that it's normal.
Yeah.
So that happened. And then I lose my wife. And then I start realizing that she has been a friend of mine for so long that I didn't even ask for or like seek out. She just kind of brought me into her heart, and she's been there the whole time. And I have a little picture of her, a beautiful picture of her. And I realized that she did so much for vocation. She did so much for the church in Mexico with these kids. So it's like reestablishing my vocation in the church and my vocation as a parent, and you know, my spiritual life, reintegrating it without a wife, like, you know, in the house, and like all that's been a part, I believe, of her, like bringing me.
Maybe she's trying to call you to get in touch with your mothering side too.
Yeah, good luck with that.
You're gonna have to pull that's gonna be the second miracle that gets her canonized. But you know, that's an example of a saint kind of choosing you. But then there's also saints that we choose intentionally, whether it's our parents named us at birth, whether it's someone that we picked at our confirmation. But there's a lot of ways to kind of have a special relationship with one of these saints. So first of all, what do we establish is what is even a patron saint? Now, sometimes a patron saint is like, okay, there's the patron saint of firemen. That's Saint Florian. He's a patron saint of a particular profession, or there's the patron saint of toothache. That's Saint Apollonia, because she was martyred and her teeth were knocked out. So that's a saint that you would invoke for a particular malady or struggle. Then there's also patron saints where you want to model your life after them. And that would be, you know, kind of a different patronage.
Right.
You know, so there's a lot of different ways and types of patron saints. So let's talk about that. So first, who are some of your patron saints? Because you can have more than one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I've got the ones I'm named after.
Yeah.
So I'm named after Saint Michael the Archangel.
Pretty good.
Prince of the Heavenly Host. He's right up there.
Who is like God?
Yeah. Asking that question, who is like God? And Saint John Vianney, which is, it's interesting how patron saints kind of grow with you. So Saint John Vianney is a patron saint of parish priests.
Yeah.
And so now I'm a parish priest. I chose as a high school student, because for confirmation, we usually choose a saint name. I chose Francis of Assisi. I didn't really have, I kind of like him. I didn't really have much more thought beyond that. He continues to be a huge influence in my life. But it's funny. St. John Bosco is one of my patron saints. And not that I'm not named Michael John after John Bosco, but I read a book about him when I was a kid. It inspired me to my first thoughts of ever becoming a priest, reading about him. And I remember years later when I was about to ring the bell for us to walk out at a school mass, the mass I was celebrating, where I was a chaplain at St. Paul's School in Pensacola. And it was on his feast day on January 31st. And I remember thinking in that moment, like, oh, John Bosco, you've been here with me this whole time. Like whether I've been conscious of it or not, whether I've been like invoking him constantly even not really thinking much about him during my time in seminary, but kind of coming now as a priest in this ministry with young people in particular. That was back when I was a young priest.
You're not that old.
To recognize his influence and impact on my life, and his inspiration from when I was 10 years old and I first read about him up until and including now. So that would be another one of mine, St. John Bosco.
Who are your patrons, Ryan?
Well, yeah, kind of going back to who's with me. My confirmation saint is Saint Anthony, and
What's your middle name?
Because it's my middle name. It's not very.
Because you're Italian, you
have
to.
So which Anthony? Of the desert, of Padua? Oh, of the desert.
Oh, I was thinking Padua.
Oh, wow. I was an Italian to go with the desert. That's crazy.
Well, I mean, I had a choice, and I like the picture better.
You just told us how imaginative you were in prayer, and then during that, you're just like, I don't know, I just like the picture.
In the 8th grade, I wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the problems with confirmation in the 8th or 9th grade. You're not really spiritually mature enough to really appreciate it.
Right.
Well, my kids are now, you know, they've chosen their sense, I think, with a little more like encouragement. And
well, it's not the 90s or 80s anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they took some care to do that.
During my
Cabrini has been one.
Oh, nice.
Because when was
she a widower too, or widow too?
No, she cared for orphans in the Denver area that were working in the mines and stuff like that. And she's got a big hill up there. And when Jen couldn't go to her trip with the ladies, I went with Kevin, and we scoped it out. I was like, "Is this good?" I got some really bad news. I had to fly back, but I walked up on top of that mountain, and the whole idea of orphans hit me really hard. Like, Yeah.
No.
So like the sun came up and I was like, she's with me, right? So I got a picture of her too. And I get pictures after these things happen just to remember this stuff.
Yeah.
So I would say, Conchita, her, Anthony, I'm sorry, man. I know you're like listening, but yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a really great point that you brought up, that you have pictures of these saints. And, because now you have the special relationship with them and you remember them. And it's the same thing that having a picture of your grandparents on the mantle or having a picture of your kids, taped to your toolbox or whatever.
Jordan poster on the wall.
Yeah.
Be a good basketball player.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's something. No, I'm serious.
I have one.
See him dunking from the free throw
Yeah, I mean,
line.
you can see here, we got,
a couple nuns
Selena's a couple nuns smoking and Thomas Aquinas and whatever.
Libre.
Nacho Libre.
I got a poster of Jordan dunking from the free, not anymore, but from
I did too.
and it inspires me that one day I too might be able to make a layup. So
Yeah, make a layup.
So you still have it?
still striving.
I don't know. You're a pretty tall guy. Can you touch rim?
I could back in the day.
A little training, you could probably.
It's getting farther and farther away.
Yeah. Kind of talking about confirmation, and being immature for it. Like, I was reading some history books and I read some book about, I don't know, the monk who set the calendar, right? I read something about how the calendar was maybe off, was year zero really year that Christ was born, whatever. And it was by a saint called Saint Dionysius Exiguus, which is Latin for Dennis the Short. But I just thought Dionysius Exiguus was cool. So I, in confirmation class, they're like, well, who do you want to choose as your confirmation saint? I'm like, Dionysius Exiguus. And they're like, no, that's stupid. Pick someone else. So I went with St. John, which is my favorite saint.
Shit. He wasn't talking.
No, he was not talking. I don't know, man. But then as you go through life, you find yourself in particular moments in your life where you really connect with a saint, whether it's a profession you go into. I think that's a really great area to find saints that can help you because they've been there. Like largely the church, the reason that someone is the patron saint of something is because either they did that or they suffered because of it. So for example, like the patron saint of mechanics is St. Catherine of Alexandria because she was martyred on the wheel. And there's a mechanical aspect to it. Or
Maximilian Kolbe would be somebody who, with the printing press ministered to souls. And so he would be the patron saint.
Yep. Or St. Lawrence of Rome, St. Lawrence the deacon, he's the patron saint of chefs because he was martyred on a gridiron. And when he was getting killed, he's like, turn me over, I'm done on this side, which is like a chef thing, right? So, I mean, that's a
Saint of barbecues.
Patron saint of barbecues.
Like kind of some humor where you don't really take it seriously as a chef?
No, I don't think so. Because if he had the presence of mind to say this when he's getting roasted to death alive, I think it
needs to flip his steak up.
Yeah,
okay, I got it.
So, I think those are examples of saints who, have those particular patronages because they lived that way. And then there's also the ones, again, who suffered, right? So like patron saint of cancer, right? St. Peregrine because he had the cancer on his leg. I'd mentioned St. Apollonia. I learned her name because I had a terrible toothache one time. You can see it, I'm missing that too. I'm like, who's the patron saint of teeth? I have no idea. And she was a young girl, and when she was martyred, the Roman soldiers punched her in the mouth till all of her teeth fell out. So,
and if that ever flips, because sometimes there's two saints, right? For one thing,
there could be saints with multiple patronages, but there's patron saints of places, like the patron saint of our country and of our entire hemispheres, Our Lady of Guadalupe. You have the patron saint of your parish. I think that's important to mention too.
Yeah. So from St. Dominic Parish, and one of the things that when we were rebuilding from Hurricane Michael, we built our adoration chapel, and we wanted really to highlight some of the saints from the family of St. Dominic, the Dominican order. But what I love about that is the more you kind of dive into these things, the more connections you see. We've been going past several years as a parish to Lima, Peru for a mission trip. And so we fall in love with St. Martin de Porres and St. Rose of Lima. And so realize, they're both Dominicans. And so we put them, so we actually, as part of our altarpiece there, again, it's sort of like the expanding family, the members of the family that maybe you didn't know before that you start to know and start to fall in love with. Is just a really cool aspect of being part of the church.
Yeah. So let's talk about a couple ways where maybe you don't have a patron saint. Maybe this is something you never went through. Maybe you picked some crazy saint because you were a kid, right? And you don't know, You picked Saint Homo Bonus because you thought it was funny, and now whatever, right? Which Saint Homo,
funny.
it's still funny.
Yeah.
Still funny.
He's laughing in heaven.
He is funny. So what are some ways that you could choose a patron saint? And I think that you can, number one, like you guys have both experienced this, Ryan, you in particular, is pay attention to saints who seem to be pursuing you. Whether you keep hearing their names pop up, you see a book, you notice something on their feast day, people randomly mention it. I mean, a lot of times if you're attuned to this and you're really discerning, these saints can begin to attract themselves to you through things like that. I'm sure that's something you guys have both experienced, right?
And even something as innocuous as something about them attracts me. I saw a picture of them. I'm like, that's interesting, or that how they're depicted in art, or if they're a more modern saint, how they look in a photograph. There's something about that kind of draws you, and paying attention to that, even as something as simple as or seemingly unimportant as their name. Their name is, I like the way that name sounds.
It's fun to say.
Yeah, like a great example, a modern saint, Saint Pier Giorgio Frassati. He's one of those. Even you hear the name Pier Giorgio, and you're like, oh, Frassati. It's got there's a lot of
that's some rich Corinthian leather on that name.
That's a good. There's this meal. You know, there's a good meal in that name.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
Cologne,
Pier Giorgio Frassati. By Dio.
Wait, who's Saint Dior?
Patronage by Pier Giorgio Frassati. Buy it at Macy's.
It's kind of silly or innocuous, but there's something about that. So just like you said, paying attention to that. And then I'm seeing a picture of this person, or I'm encountering them. I remember my sister has fallen in love with a soon-to-be saint. Actually, one of her miracles is actually unfolded here at our own parish.
Really?
For the servant of God, Chiara Petrillo. And my sister was the first one in our family to kind of discover her, actually her husband at the same time in different ways. My sister saw a picture of this young wife and mother with an eye patch because she was suffering from cancer, and just had this radiant smile on her face. My sister saw the picture and was like, who is this woman? I need to get to know her. And because of that, she introduced her to members of our parish who invoked her intercession that led to a miraculous cure. We can go into more on that.
Wow.
That we've actually been investigated by the dicastery for the cause of saints here at our parish, which is amazing. So we're seeing all these connections.
Another goosebumps.
Goosebumps popping up, man. But it came from, my sister saw this picture of this woman and was just drawn in by that. And in a sense, Chiara Petrillo has been pursuing my family, pursuing my parish too. We had another potential miracle that happened since then through her intercession. But I love those sort of just paying attention, and I think sometimes we don't do that. We let, once it gets into holy stuff, they're just saints or they're just names. It's Martin, it's Rose, it's Chiara, it's Francis. They say, oh, that's the third person in the past month who's brought up St. Francis of Rome. I don't know anything about St. Francis of Rome. I'm going to do a little research into her life.
That's such a random saint, because my wife just brought up St. Francis of Rome for no reason. She's like, I just heard of this saint.
Oh, I got to go research.
Now St. Francis of Rome is coming after us now. Okay.
Yes.
All right, St. Francis.
Parish church in Rome was St. Francis of Rome. So we went there as a pilgrimage 2 years ago.
Wow.
As a parish. So, yeah.
Sometimes God is trying to introduce you to a saint. God's playing matchmaker too, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're open to that, like you said, look for those images. Look, you happen to find a feast day, you hear an interesting story. That's a great way to just be introduced to a saint that might be looking to help you out. Mm-hmm. Because that's their job too. That's what they want to do. They want to be able to intercede because they have that perfection of unity of will with the Father now that they're in heaven, because you can't get to heaven if you don't have that. And they're able to then pursue us so that they can share that same thing with us so that we could get to that.
And it all comes from God, right? So even
that's right.
You look at all these, like Our Lady of Guadalupe, it's like God could have introduced himself in many different ways to this hemisphere, right? He chose Our Lady of Guadalupe, he chose this image, this miraculous image. But I think also too, I think these introductions that are going on are divine appointments that God's making an effort to set up in your life.
Yeah.
It's the beauty of, and you guys as parents would be able to understand this, beauty of the parent, the father, the mother can do it themselves, but it's so beautiful when you see the older sibling teach the younger sibling, or the older sibling helping them to do, like, in a sense, it makes your your life. That's not detracting from your life as a parent. And the same thing with God, with us, when our older brothers and sisters who are the saints, when they're helping us, in a sense, it's giving more glory to God. It's giving more, it's magnifying what God's doing in an even more profound way. And I think that's so true. That's why God, those introductions that seem to happen with us and the different saints.
So just back to what you're saying about a family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like when a saint pursues you, but there's other times where you might pursue a saint. So I'm about to go through something. I'm experiencing something. I want to aspire to something. That's when, instead of waiting for a saint to come and knock on your door, you can go and research. So for example, you're starting a new career. You're interested in a certain thing. You're trying to discern a vocation to the marriage or the priesthood. You're 2-ferts. It's what time is it? It's 2:30. Right? There's a lot of reasons that you might want to pursue. I'm sorry, that's just a dumb joke.
I do not affiliate with
So yeah, those are instances where you may be pursuing, you are the one pursuing a saint. So again, you could be looking for people with maybe saints with particular attitudes, saints who overcame certain things you're struggling with, saints who excelled at things that you want to excel at. And that's another great way to pick a patron saint. So look, if you're an artist, you might go out and find about Blessed Fra Angelica, or a musician, Saint Cecilia. Or if you're about to go on a long trip, you might look at Saint Francis Xavier or Saint Paul. Or if you may be struggling with, you kind of foul-mouthed and you're a grumpy bastard like me, well, then maybe you know a lot about St. Jerome, right?
Absolutely.
Ask me how I know. Or, maybe you're starting to study, okay, and you got a big test coming up. Well, who's the patron saint of test taking? That's St. Joseph of Cupertino, because he was really not a very smart guy and couldn't become a priest, so the angels had to help him.
His daughter was struggling with the bar. Said it. I mean, she's like, it's like, I knew it. Like, I'm like,
St. Joseph Cupertino. Well, it reminds you of, there's a passage in Acts of the Apostles talking about the early church where it says they all held all things in common. Anyone who was poor, didn't want for anything, and who was rich, in a sense, all the rich people were given all the poor people. And there's this interchange. Sometimes we're tempted to make that like this sort of
communist. Yeah.
It's not. It's this, we're family, so you don't even have to ask, brother. What I have is yours. And that's not just material goods in the church. That's the reality, the more important goods, which are the spiritual goods.
Yeah.
So that everything, I don't have the chastity of this virgin martyr who gives up her life, or the patience of this other saint, or even the tenacity or magnanimity of a Mother Teresa. But if there's nothing held selfishly in the body of Christ. So I can ask him, Lord, give me a share or Mother Teresa, give me a share of your magnanimity or your tenacity for the poor. Or Thomas Aquinas, your chastity or your love of learning. So I've struggled to focus on something, so I'm asking these other saints. So there's something beautiful about that interchange. Because it's true, there's nothing held selfishly in the body of Christ, and especially for those who have been perfected by grace, who are in glory now. Everything that's theirs is ours, which is an awesome kind of bold way of praying. That I might not be very humble, chaste, patient, focused, studious, but there are sure a lot of other saints that are, and so in a sense, to boldly ask what they have. Our mentor, Monsignor Slade Crawford, used to say this in his prayers, like, Lord, give me the faith of 10,000 martyrs, which is such a ridiculous. It's like
is like 2 enough? Like 10,000? Wow,
1,000 martyrs.
It's big ass though.
So when I think about that, when I think of the faith of the martyrs in the face of persecution and violence, it's like, golly, if I had that kind of faith, and it's like, well, I'm asking for it. I'm begging for it. And, it's like, I want a double portion of your spirit, that's.
Well, I mean, being saints, they have a superabundance of these charisms. And what is a charism? It's this particular aspect, because Christ contains in himself all perfections. And in him, you can never be like Christ in his perfection in all things. So these saints focus on one of these aspects of Christ, whether it's his sanctity, whether it's his obedience, whether it's his chastity, whether it's his vigorousness, whether it's his preaching, whether it's his prayer, whether it's his, whatever. And they find these particular aspects of Christ's perfection, and they cultivate that in them as their charism. That's what a charism is. It's an eminence of the perfection of Christ in us. And these saints,
for the sake of the church,
for the body, right? And these,
that's why you could look for one too.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like, give me this.
Well, I like that you mentioned that the church holds all things in common. And, my patron saints are St. George, which my middle name is St. John, and you got St. Anthony. There is no St. Ryan, right? And I think that if we hold all of our good things in common, you know, we could become in tandem the first Saint Ryan. I don't think either one of us has got a shot solo. Yeah. It's like, you know, it's kind of like I think that's the only way we're going to get that to happen.
I think there's precedent. The Basilica of St. John Lateran is actually named after St. John the Evangelist and St. John the Baptist. So it's kind of merging their names a little bit. So I think we can get one saint out of this. Yeah.
If you don't mess it up, dude. Likewise. What do you mean, man? I'm over here. Chill. But then again, there's also saints, you know, who struggled with things. You know, not that they excelled at things, not that they suffered things. There's saints who struggled with things. You know, Venerable Matt Talbot is a great example. You know, a lot of people struggle with substance addiction, and Matt Talbot was an addict. Saint Mark Jin Jang, he was a heroin addict his whole life. And people with addiction know that you have it, it doesn't go away. You just treat it and you prevent. There's saints who've had that. There's saints who struggled with lust. There's, you know, saints who struggled with anger, you know, and they were able to overcome. So it's not just, oh, they're perfect examples. They're Michael Jordan Duncan from the free throw line, you know.
St. Augustine, like lust, right?
Right, but that's a great example of a saint with lust. I mean, he was out there wilding.
Yeah, he was out there wilding.
You know,
I think of one of the saints that I kind of, early in life I heard about, and she didn't really speak to me, but it was kind of as I got a little bit older, I began to really just be moved by her witness, was Saint Therese of Lisieux.
Yeah.
The little flower. I think sometimes kind of gets painted as like a Pollyanna saint. But as I got to know her, she died at the age of 24, very young, but the suffering that she went through towards the end of her life, the temptations even towards suicide with the profound, you know, that she actually said that if I didn't have faith, I would have committed suicide. Like recognizing that she's been to that place. And I think so people who go to those dark spots that think like, well, this is the place where grace doesn't go. It's like, it's exactly there. It's exactly in that spot that saints like Therese can show us that the Lord's love in us there. And I think, you know, obviously for anyone who's been in that spot or journeyed through that place, she had to deal with her own father going through basically like a mental breakdown, you know, having, you know, and then eventually moving into a place of dementia and all sorts of things. And he's a saint as well. Yeah. And so I think there's something within that I think is such a key for us to recognize that the saints are there, not just for what we do well, but also in those.
Yeah, absolutely. Saint Therese's parents, you know, Martin was her father, and he was one of those saints that kept speaking to me right around the time my son was born. Saint Martin de Porres and Saint Martin, Saint Teresa's, Saint Louis Martin, right? So I mean, that was another thing that kind of inspired that. So let's talk about some practical steps for somebody who's out there trying to find some more relationship. Like, you might not need to go and say, well, I need my patron saint and this is going to be my guy and this is going to be my girl. You can have multiple. They can change over life. They can change, you know, you can go like, look, you know who in your family to go to when your car is broken and who to go to in your family when you need to borrow money. You can know who to go to in your family. They're not the same. You can know who.
Someone you can borrow money from.
One, yeah. Or
patron saint of Venmo.
Saint Venmo of Cashola. I mean, but you know the person to go to who if you need a recipe or if you need whatever, right? Yeah. There's different people. So let's talk about some practical steps for choosing a patron saint for whatever needs you have. So one is, I think, through prayer, right? Because again, we've said God is the one who grants everything. It is through the Trinity that all things are created and granted and all graces and blessings come from. So ask in prayer, you know, Father, who do you want me to associate with? Who do you want me to get to know? You know, what are some like ways that someone can pray like that?
There's such a simple tradition in the Church of novenas. There's such a simple, even just paying attention to the patronal saints for each day to say, like, even so, as you know, today's happens to be the feast day of Saint Leo the Great. Like, I don't know a lot about him, but I kind of recognize, he's the namesake of our current Pope. Pope Leo the 14th is named after him. So even that can kind of become like a little window into that person. But begins, and I love the prayer of the Church is always putting the saints in front of us as companions on the journey. So even just kind of beginning to look at that, I think is makes our daily prayer, even if you do a daily, you're reading the scripture, you know, readings at Mass that day, maybe you're reading the prayer for the collect at Mass, and it's kind of moving you by like, I want to learn more about Saint Bernardine of Siena or somebody. So yeah,
Saint Bernardine of Siena is the patron saint of marketing.
there it is.
Yeah.
All those marketing people out there.
Yeah,
Mark it up.
because he created the IHS sign. And he'd walk around with it, and he is considered the patron saint of marketing. And the reason I know that is because I did research, because we have a marketing company, and I'm like, who's the patron saint of marketing? We should be asking his intercession. So that's another way, is actually doing research. This information's out there.
Yeah.
I mean, you can ask ChatGPT, who's the patron saint of, underwater basket weaving, and it'll tell you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not hard to find this information, but at least be curious enough to recognize, okay, I have a need. Let me go research who is a saint that I can seek their help in. I'm even sure, Ryan, you've done that plenty of times.
I was just thinking too, like even a step back is saying like, I want a relationship with a saint, Lord. Like bring somebody to my life that you think, like I can do that too.
Yeah.
Like he can bring saints in your life. Then it's paying attention to things that are showing up, doing the research, and that journey, that path to that person and their life and their charism will, become increasingly more manifest.
Yeah. Another way is just reading books of saints. I love the little, when I was a kid, I'm sure you guys probably had the same book. It was like this kind of like, I don't know, animated. It kind of looked like painting Book of the Saints. And it was all the saints of the year.
Driving the Taylor's saying? Oh, he's Taylor.
This was made for kids, I mean, and I just read something that's simple and just start to get to know about certain saints and read these biographies. I think you're thinking of Alban Butler's Lives of the Saints.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little bit more elevated. It's a great book to read but there's a lot of things. Get a Saint of the Day calendar, pay attention to the calendar, but go read about some saints and get inspired. That's another way, just to kind of explore without intention. There's times where you're going to research and say, who's the patron saint of this? Other times is, let's learn about the saints and see what's up,
Absolutely. And we have such a great, there's this show, there's so many great resources out there right there with that dive into the lives of different saints.
Yeah.
That can help us to kind of get that moving.
Yeah. I remember one time we did an episode on like bizarre patron saints, and there's a patron saint of ugly people. Can't remember his name.
Was that the one that was on top of the column?
No, you're thinking of Saint Simon Stylites. And
brain is like a file cabinet.
But I can't
a file cabinet, but it's all kind of pour a bunch of water in it, sort of swilling out.
Start a fire.
The patron saint of ugly people, Saint Drogo. And that's just not a very pleasant sounding name either. So, I mean,
so someone would feel ugly too.
Yeah, it would. Meow, 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 meow.
You got a patron.
Right, yeah,
What's for everybody.
Or, I mean, there's a patron saint of beautiful people, and that's Saint Rose of Lima, which you mentioned. She was renowned for her beauty, and it was so problematic because people would pursue her and only see her beauty that she would take jalapenos and rub them on her face to mess her skin up so that people would stop
commenting on.
Like, hey, look, my sanctity's up here,
Yeah.
And then the recommendation that you made, I think, is the perfect way. So that once you've started to kind of discern and you're looking through, doing a novena to that saint. Yes. That's I think the best way to get to know them.
Just the simplest way, if you have a particular intention you're praying for, 9 days of a prayer invoking that saint. And it's just, it's or it can just be 9 days where I say Our Father and Hail Mary in honor of that saint. Anyways, but it's usually 9 days.
Yep.
Is the best way to do it. It's gonna bear fruit. If nothing else, you're gonna pray for 9 days, which is
what's yeah. And that's what the saints want, So, if I'm giving some recommendations to the audience, go out and find a saint. If you're struggling with something, find the patron saint of that. If you want to aspire to something, do the research. If you don't know and you just want a relationship, ask God through these prayer methods, but pick one. Just pick one for one reason or another. Go out there and do that, and then say that simple novena prayer to them, and then listen. Yep. And then cultivate that, because no relationship is a good relationship if you don't cultivate it. So,
absolutely. I'm excited for people to begin who maybe haven't done this before, even people maybe who aren't Catholic.
Yeah.
Can I do this? Absolutely, you can.
Oh, great point.
Just looking at, about the history of the church or a character in the Bible, Saint Peter, Saint, our Blessed Mother, Saint Elizabeth, Elijah or Moses. I mean, there's so many people that we believe that they've all been saved by grace as well. So they're all participating in the beatific vision. So you can invoke any of them. And so, yeah, I think it's a great practice to cultivate.
Yeah. So put in the comments below some of your patron saints, or if you want, put in the comments below someone that you want to know, or a saint or a thing you're struggling with, and us or the community will help share that. So that's pretty good. I love the saints.
Some more ideas. We have bobbleheads.
We do. We got St. Ignatius and St. Patrick and St. Francis. We got these two losers, but two of them together. But yeah, anyway, you could pick a saint. They can pick you, but pick one. It's a great help in your prayer life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, so look, if you're watching this, click the like and subscribe button. We appreciate that. It's the easiest way to participate in the Catholic Talk Show mission. We look at the statistics, and over 75% of the people who are watching this right now, statistically, haven't clicked the like button. I mean, you just have to move your finger just like a quarter of a centimeter and just hit the button.
You can do it. I believe in you.
It's the bare minimum you could do. I mean, we're giving you all this effort.
Closer to becoming a saint.
It really is. It really is.
Small stuff.
Look, the journey to sainthood starts with the journey to sainthood can start with one simple click, right? And if you want to support the show, you can go to CatholicTalkShow.com/Patreon. You can see all the different ways that you can support us financially. We are not asking for anything substantial. We're asking for your pocket change, a cup of coffee. And if you can do that and all of you can come together and, like Father Michael said, we can hold things in common, through your common support with just a little bit, it goes a long way for us to be able to continue to make the show, to travel, to edit, to produce, all the things that we need to do to keep the lights on. We couldn't do it without you. We have great things to give you in our gratitude. Coffee mugs, hoodies, hats, prayers, devotionals, access to certain things that are on the Patreon page, more. I think, Ryan, we're going to try to do a couple Patreon meetups that we haven't been able to do the last couple of years, but where we'll just say, hey, we're going to be here on this particular date. We're going to this church. Let's meet up, etc. So if you can consider that, it's CatholicTalkShow.com/Patreon. And again, we're going on pilgrimage in 2026 to the Holy Land. If you'd like to join us, you can go to CatholicTalkShow.com/Holy Land, and you can see all the amazing places we're going to visit, and we're going to walk in the footsteps of Christ in the Holy Land now that it's safe and opened up again. We can't wait for that and would love to journey with you.
Yeah, we're grateful to be talking about the saints with you today. I hope you got a lot out of this episode, and we'll see you next week.